Okay, so you're trading the Fed, 2nd of November. What was your plan going into it? What was sort of the big thing that you're looking for on the Fed?
We were all looking for that ongoing increases to go. Any change of the pace of what hikes were going forward, any direction of that.
Yeah, that's that kind of like 50 or 75, right? Yeah. Going into the December one.
That's exactly what we're all thinking.
Yeah, that's similar to what I thought. That was the pivot, right? They dropped the ongoing increases and it's the tip to less.
You had the Nick Timros tweet, didn't you? Which wasn't, you don't think it's a pivot, but the market took it as a massive pivot, didn't it?
Yeah,
it rallied massively.
The standard Wall Street Journal.
Yeah, so you had that going into it, didn't you? I think that triggered it into that.
Yeah.
So everyone's highlights were looking for that, and in a way it screwed you because it's still in there. And then restrictive was in there, and the first one that dropped was not that. So my highlights actually didn't have it straight away. So that's the error of it coming 1 second after each other because you react onto the first one.
Yeah.
So I set mine so they weren't green.
Yeah.
So it came up white, and I had pace in purple.
Right.
So I just hit it.
So yeah, and then you're right.
So then you look at your screen, you hit it, and then I hit it again, and then it just flipped the other way.
Yeah.
And then you sort of have to deal with whatever you can.
And that was kind of you playing the dovish move that they keep on going in, and then you get that big spike down on the 5-year, which I've got a chart up there. So don't need to know specifics of where you end up getting in on it, but you got the chart, and I'm guessing you're buying it here, and it kind of pushes you too far, right?
Yeah, because you worry about what you miss. I mean, it's different. I spoke to Andy, I spoke to Tom about, depending on how big your account is, you can stomach quite a large loss. I mean, Andy said he even bought S&P even lower.
Right,
and
yeah,
then
you kind of
sort of knew it was like bullshit, really.
Yeah.
Because it should go that way. And that's the difference with having multiple banks behind you.
Yeah.
And then it comes straight back in probably 10 seconds.
Problem is, by that point, it's gone too far. You can't hold on to it. You get out, you take the loss, and
which a lot of us younger lot done.
Yeah, you're not alone in the taking of that loss, and that's a hard thing to kind of deal with because you get that first trade 10 seconds in, you've done the right thing, you've got punished for it.
I've had a few of these where I think one ECB I've done the same.
Yeah.
It must have been like one of the first clicks in, and then it just went the other way, and you panic because you're like, have you missed something? Because you set your highlights out in that format.
Yeah, absolutely. And so I guess the question there
and the liquidity also is not there.
Well, yeah.
And that hence why you get that massive spike down because everyone buys that or pukes it or they read it differently to you. Sometimes you get lucky. There was like an ECB like that, wasn't there?
Yeah.
It went up and then it got absolutely hammered the other way.
Yeah, so you end up with the opportunity to get on the short before it goes.
Yeah, you're long and then you get that bit of luck.
Yeah.
But you don't sometimes.
It's a tough one, but I think, like you just said, it's one of those where if you're asked again, would you do the same thing in future?
Yeah, I did write down, but yeah. But Tom said to me this, you're looking for such a dovish outcome straight away. There's a chance that he was saying to me, there's a chance that you could get pretty screwed on it.
Yeah, so that kind of...
How can you set out your highlights to be in a hawkish way?
Yeah.
To sort of recognise that. And it is a shame, obviously, they bring it out second after second because you're reacting straight away.
I guess that's the value of having a team, though, right? You've got a load of people around you who are kind of pointing out different approaches.
And it's hard to obviously all talk at the same time straight away, which we don't really do. Because you're all focusing after 10 seconds, you're down your ass and no one really wants to talk then. But just trying to understand how you manage that sort of outcome and about how you did the highlights, really. Don't be so focused on one side. Because you can have a hawkish side to that. Obviously, you never know what they're going to bring, so the terminal stuff comes later.
Yeah.
Which gives you that benefit of
that was the bit that comes up a little bit further in. So you've taken your big loss, so you got hit pretty hard 10 seconds in. What are you kind of thinking there? Because let's be honest, it's not a good situation, and I guess you're sort of thinking, well, is there a trade left for me today?
I was pretty gutted, really, because you're following what your plan set out to do. And I feel like throughout this year, it hasn't it's been such a hard year and a hard period that it just feels like every single time you put size on and you're trying to do the right thing, it doesn't work.
Yeah.
I've never really been paid when I've really gone big, and it just feels like it's always coming after you. Is there ever going to be a chance that you get it right, etc.
Yeah.
But then, I was pretty gutted with it really because I thought I did the right thing, and we all done that. And it's a big shift because you lose. I think you lose like 3 or 4x than what you're ever used to.
Yeah, that's the bit that's tough to deal with. Right?
And then sometimes when, like me, I'm not making 3, 4, 5, 6, 7x on the upside.
Yeah,
I'm like, how are you supposed to make this back?
Yeah.
If there isn't an opportunity, you can't trade. Obviously, you got given a little bit more risk, but how much risk can you take?
Yeah. So what are you doing in that situation? Because you're like you say, you're thinking, when's it going to go right for me? Which I think is pretty common. A lot of people, you get that feeling of it's all against me. How do you reset? Because you've recovered most of it throughout the rest of the session. How do you actually reset to do that? So get yourself in a mindset where you're like, oh, okay, this has gone bad, but I can do something about it.
I think there's times that you've seen them happen before help.
Yeah.
Obviously, I'm not aggressive enough in the meantime to that you are right. You make, that 5x. I think I could have done a lot better in that time. I think I could have probably planned it a little bit better.
The recovery.
The recovery of it. Because when it actually happened, I just hesitated in it too much.
Right.
So I even actually sold gold just before he said it all.
Yeah.
Because he put expeditiously back in there, so I'll just throw something in the gold.
Yeah, and the gold, I'll get a gold chart up.
I've seen, obviously you've seen, this is where you want to put it into practice, and it's hard that the fact that you was down on it and technically it was all set up really nicely. Then I tried to trade the DEC 23s. That's where I got caught up in the noise. But after the rally and you get the hawkish point, gold gets very bouncy over these.
Yeah.
And I was when Alex was doing the same thing. You have to sell it as it bounces. I watched my recording back and it goes straight away.
Yeah.
Compared to if you trade the 2 and the 5, and if you trade DEC 23, you would have been completely fine.
Yeah.
Because you're not paying down as far. Because you get best prices because liquidity is there. So I was trying to trade that on the bounces, and I trade that quite small.
Yeah. But that's kind of
the thing, you have to try and trade it quite small. Gold, you can't, if I start selling 5, 10 lots in that, and you have to sit through the 15 or 20 tick bounces, it's even so much more painful. When you're trying to then trade multiple markets as well, that could be a different way of looking at it. You trade one.
Yeah.
When you're in that sort of scenario.
But that's kind of the risk management element of it, that you have to set yourself in that mindset that you're in recovery mode now. This perhaps is not the day that you're going to pull the hero trade out the bag because you don't have the risk for it. And you kind of have to sit back and go, right, well, it's now a case of I need to come out of this not in a bad situation like I was, rather than I'm going to come out of this great.
Yeah, I think there's the biggest time I've been down where I could try and recover.
Yeah.
Or being allowed to recover, shall we say. Which is obviously a new place. You're always going to be in that time. Yeah. It's a new place, you're going to have to try and recover. It's the same as sort of being down. And, all year I've just been down and up, down and up, down and up.
Yeah.
And every time you go down, you got to come back up, and then I keep trying to hold myself, and I keep then going back down. But you're you're finding your feet along the way, but you have to then go back. Yeah. I take sometimes quite a lot of time when I lose to get out of it, but sometimes you really got to snap back quick. And that's why I think I didn't plan enough in between that.
Yeah.
To then go, right, if he says this, in my head I knew what I needed to do. I knew how that was going to trade. I knew where your target was going to be. Take the low of the day out.
Yeah.
DEC 23, I thought I can't remember how much I've said. There was like 10 to 15 fat ticks out of it. Which again is, if you've got the risk there, you can take a large chunk out of that. Just because of where the market's priced. That's not, because he said no pausing as well. That was your second leg. So that was like that second leg, wasn't it?
That sort of final flush.
Because if you're trying to, that trade would happen from just that first comment, I think, anyway. But
Yeah.
in here, you've got to sit through such a churn, and that's where you've got to map and plan your idea,
Yeah.
or you make most of your money on that, and you run something.
And that's down to your technical abilities, though, right? Because I'd always think Harry technical first and foremost, which is something that you had coming through career program, and you sort of built on and built on and built on. And that's been your sort of mainstay of it. So I look at something like that, and I'm thinking, yeah, Harry's going to be all right here because he's got a decent sort of technical footing to go from, and you then sort of you're capitalising on that.